The following program has been pre-recorded, so please don't call in at this time. If you wish to participate in the program, tune in at 5 p.m. every Wednesday for A Pause for Thought on Baton Rouge Community Radio. Good evening, fellow humans. This is Wayne Parker with A Pause for Thought here on Baton Rouge Community Radio, 96.9 FM here in Baton Rouge. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad to have you here tonight. By we, I mean me, Wayne Parker, and my faithful co-host, Lang Baker. Lang, good evening.
Howdy, Wayne.
Glad to have you here as usual, Lang, for some good, interesting discussions, at least for me. And I have to say, everyone, that, Lang and I had a really animated discussion about tonight's topic before we went on the air, and so now I'm kind of bored with it. So, anyway, tonight's topic, should you agree to participate, is faith. What is faith, and how important is it in your or our lives, etc., and etc.? If you'd like to call in and voice your opinion or thoughts on faith, anything that Lang and I might say tonight, or offer your own insights, please give us a call, 343-9927. 343-9927 is the number at which you can reach us. There we go. Okay, Lang. So faith, as I told you earlier, this is something. Well, you know how we like to talk about how we learn something new each week, something we totally did not expect to learn. And I had to confront my obvious bias or simplistic thinking or one-sided view or whatever of faith when I began reading these different things. Because I view belief and faith as two separate things. And maybe we'll get into that, and maybe not later on, but I wanted to try to stay on course a little bit here. Let's first talk about what is faith, okay? And I've got a quote here from Hebrews 11:1, where it says that faith is, quote, being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see, close quote. And then I have one from Soren Kierkegaard. I think he's a famous philosopher.
Yep. Theologian and philosopher.
Theologian, okay. Oh, well, that brings up another topic we have for regarding faith. But anyway, he stated that faith begins precisely where thinking leaves off. And if I had stopped with just that quote, I might have been okay with that. Because I have faith in my life, at least in one area, and that's in my own personal religious beliefs, for lack of a better word, but my own beliefs about how to govern my life. But my faith comes at the end of my thinking and my observation. And reading more from Kierkegaard, I learned where he was talking about faith in God, or faith that a God exists, and that's where I departed from there. But anyhow, I looked up the word faith on dictionary.com because that was easier than reaching my fat behind up to reach my dictionary on the shelf. And it said, define faith with three different definitions. Confidence or trust in a person or thing. Faith in another's ability. Then there is belief that is not based on proof. He had faith that the hypothesis would be substantiated by fact. Now, to me, that's faith based upon evidence. But there you go. And then, of course, the third one is belief in God or in the doctrines or teachings of religion. The firm faith of the pilgrims is an example given today. So, what do you think, Lang? What's your strict definition of faith? Narrow it down for me, buddy.
Yeah, I don't have a strict definition. Like with a lot of words, I think it's slippery, and we use it in different ways, in different contexts, at different times, and to mean kind of different things that may share something in common or may not. And if to take the number two,
belief
of the three,
that is not based on proof.
Yeah. For example, I have faith this hypothesis
Right.
will be proven by evidence, I think.
Yeah.
So you you suggested that was faith based on evidence, but I would say that is faith that the evidence will come to establish it. But the time of the faith in it, the evidence hasn't been uncovered yet.
Well, yes, but the hypothesis was, aren't they normally created based upon study and the accumulation of some evidence to where someone gets to a point and says, well, based on what I know today, I think this, let's do an experiment
I
to
think
test
this
it.
can be established.
Right.
At this point I have, well, maybe I have faith, or maybe the experimental thing and says, well, here's one possible explanation, let's see whether the evidence will
Right.
support this or not. In
Well,
which
that's
case
true.
I don't really have faith in the hypothesis, I have faith in the method to establish whether the hypothesis is supported by evidence or not supported by evidence.
Okay, and that kind of goes toward it. I'm still wrestling with this belief-faith thing, and I would love to be able to get it resolved here, and on record as being resolved, just to satisfy me. But, okay, one of the examples of faith is that you have faith in people to do the right thing. And of course, you have faith in any one person to do the right thing, depending, assuming we agree on what the right thing is. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
From one source I read, the origin of the English word faith is the Latin word for trust.
Okay.
So if you substitute trust in that first definition, what you're saying is, I trust this person will be this way or do this thing.
Or trust people in general will be
Or,
this
yeah,
way,
or whatever it is. But you have trust that will be the outcome, the way they will act, or that's the kind of person they are, or whatever it is that you have trust in. So the faith there, rather than belief, is more like trust.
Right, okay. But then again, you're saying trust and not belief, and that's where,
Well,
and I'm good with that. I mean, because it's not belief.
Well, the source said that the origin of the English word faith is the Latin word trust.
Okay.
So it's saying faith and trust, in that sense, are the same thing.
Oh, yeah,
They're
but not
just
belief.
different words.
But not belief. You know,
Right.
it's like...
But then there's
ahead.
another source was saying the word that's translated from the Greek in the Bible to mean faith, in Greek can mean belief, faithfulness, or trust. So it's like in Greek, according to this source, you still got that ambiguity between these three notions that we use in different ways and that have some overlap in meaning. I don't know whether we're talking about meaning or usage, or if there's a difference between the two.
Yeah, I guess I was using meaning, and that's man. But I just wish the world could be simple, man. I just wish everything could be easy, everything could be black and white, this or that. But I guess things aren't. Do you practice any faith in your life? And I'm not asking you to go into anything seriously personal unless you'd like to, but, you know, as far as personal beliefs or whatever. But, I mean, can you think of instances of faith that you engage in
Well,
every day?
I don't think of faith as something that's engaged in. And when it gets to the issues that people use the word faith to describe faith in something that cannot be even tested by evidence, much less proven by evidence, for me, I approach those kinds of questions with a sense of mystery. And so I don't have faith about an answer because I'll leave it as a mystery without an answer.
This is every day, in your everyday affairs.
That's in the realm of propositions that people often use faith to describe
Okay,
their attitude.
hang on, let's check this call here. Good evening, you're on the air with a pause for thought. May we know who's calling, please? Yep. Uh-oh. We'll try one more time. Good evening. Okay, you may have to give up on that for the evening if it happens again. Yep. They just tried a third time and they gave up. Anyhow, your point then, you were getting back to everyday thinking and faith.
Yeah, well, I was talking about, like, faith isn't an everyday thing for me.
Well, when you go out and drive on the streets, don't you have faith that people aren't going to crash into you?
I don't think about it.
Well, then
Except Well,
Isn't that because you have faith?
I think about it to the extent that I don't have faith in that I am a defensive driver and attending to my peripheral vision and being slow and keeping a distance and this kind of thing. And so in that sense, I guess you'd say I don't have faith in those other drivers because I'm taking a stance that tries to accommodate the possibility that the unexpected will happen.
Okay. I'll give you that much. I could get into specifics, but I understand what you're getting at, Lang. I mean, the car coming towards you on a two-lane road, you have a certain amount of faith that he's not going to cross over. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not constantly prepared to cut the wheel into the ditch but I'm thinking about it, I guess, or I'm aware of that possibility. This is going to get annoying. We'll try the call one last time, and then I'm going to give up. Good evening. You're on the air with a pause for thought. May we know who's calling, please?
Yes, this is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, it's interesting that in some ways when you use the word belief, it applies to a specific proposition of some kind. Whereas if you use the word believe, the verb, you're more into the trust or faith or hope thing. So I just want to make that observation, but also this kind of discussion is so tinged by language itself and our own experiences and conscious and unconscious understandings of what all that means that it's going to be tough slogging to get through it.
Oh, I don't know. I think Lang and I will have lots of fun. We may not conclude anything in the end, but I have faith that we'll have fun. Or is it do I believe we'll have fun? I don't know. I can't wait till we're trying to decide. But yeah, I agree, Mike. But what do you think about people who say they believe on faith?
I'm sorry?
What do you think of people who say they believe on faith?
I don't know what that means.
Okay, I don't either, but...
I mean, I understand what I think they think it means, but I don't think so.
Yes,
I'm not too sure about it myself.
Right, I just thought I'd bounce that off you real quickly. All right, Mike, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye.
Yeah, I don't want right now to go too far off on belief on faith, but anyway, yeah, we're talking about you driving, or me driving down the road and all that. There's a certain guardedness about what we do. I try to drive defensively, especially since I rode motorcycles for so many years. I never had a problem caused by somebody else on a motorcycle, but
well, I guess you get a question on this context of faith about how the other driver's going to
right
maneuver, behave. It's like something it's not in my mind. I'm not thinking about whether I trust him or her or not. It's just kind of an assumption of the way I handle my car.
Okay.
Another call.
Yeah, it could be. Good evening, you're on the air with a pause for thought. May we know who's calling, please? I guess not. Okay, I think... Anyway, it's going to be a bad night because they're going to keep trying to call the whole evening. But anyway, yeah, I guess we've kind of incorporated our habits of driving that include the defensiveness that can kind of incorporate that. So we don't have faith in the other drivers in the sense that we've already taken into account the possibility that they might do something unusual. I mean, but I was also thinking, too, that there's the experience aspect of it. Like, I don't have faith that my pickup truck will start when I leave the station. I believe it will. Why? Because it started up when I came to the station, and it started up yesterday and the day before. And, I believe the sun will rise tomorrow. I don't have faith that it will. I believe it will because it has been rising for centuries and centuries and centuries. Well, actually, it hasn't. The Earth has been rotating that long, and I saw that look in your eye. The sun will not rise tomorrow. The Earth will turn toward the east. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's
we have faith in our experience that it will continue to conform with past experience, except when it doesn't.
Right. Can you think of since you're being a smart aleck, can you think of a situation where that hasn't happened?
Where the sun hasn't risen?
Or something, anything that has happened, always gone on and always will happen that didn't.
Well, if you say always has and always will, then by definition, it couldn't have didn't. But to get to what I think your point was,
Mike was right. This is a pain in the neck. Let's quit. Anyway.
now I have faith we can get through this show.
Me too. I already made that joke, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like the time my battery's dead in my car, which has never happened before, and all of a sudden it's different. And so if it started after a few cranks, then I may have doubts about whether it's going to start the next time.
Okay.
So then, I don't know if you were going to call it faith before the first occasion of it not working, but if it was faith, it was shattered or whatever when it stopped working.
Yeah, no, it was a belief. It was a belief that it would start. But I would conjecture here, which is actually what I think religious faith is, human conjecture, but you just weren't paying close enough attention to your battery because you would have heard it starting to start slower or crank the engine more slowly each time, which would tell you that it's getting ready to die. But that's just, I kid myself that I notice those things. But let's move on to another aspect of faith, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, there's a guy here. Well, actually, I don't have the author of the article here, but it was published in Psychology Today. And the guy quotes or talks about a philosopher, Richard Rorty, who claims that people have a final vocabulary. And by that he means, words or phrases that we use once we're done thinking about something and we need to make a decision. And he says, he calls this bounded rationality, to where, if we spend, if before we make a decision to do or, decide on something, we try to investigate every single aspect of it, we'll never get to a decision. And so at some point we say, okay, I'm done thinking about this. I'm going to have faith that, it's going to work out this way or whatever. Now, how do you see that? He calls it a leap of faith, I believe.
Yeah, this is where he uses the term bounded rationality.
Right.
The reasoning,
at some
you
point,
only go so far with it.
Right, and on purpose. You rationally ration your rationality.
That's the way he phrases it, yeah. And he says that faith as a word is one of these decision time markers.
And what I put by that, Lang, and here I don't mean to, yes, I do mean to quibble about this. That's not faith. To me, that's a calculated gamble. I've already thought through all this stuff, so I will gamble that it all leads to this action being correct. And I guess I should just get off that quibbling stuff there, but that's my distinction there. But in that sense, if I just accept that, it's true. We use faith all the time. We do go on our hope or belief or whatever, an assumption that what we've thought up so far will come true based on nothing in between.
Yeah, it may be that, or it may be when a person gets to that point, they just say, this is the best educated guess I can make about it. I'm going to go ahead even if I'm wrong. So I don't really have faith that this is absolutely correct, but I'm acting in the face of incomplete knowledge.
Right, and I guess in a way you have faith that regardless of how it works out, you're going to be able to handle the consequences.
That's faith about something different, though.
Right, yes, I know, but you're still
faith about
employing
your own capacities as opposed to faith about the accuracy of the decision or the correctness of the decision.
Yeah, correct. I agree. But all the same, it all works in the same way in the sense that, I may not have complete faith that it'll work, but I have faith that however it ends won't kill me or whatever. Good evening, you're on the air with a pause for thought, man. Who's calling, please?
Yes, it's Mike again.
Okay, Mike.
As you enter this new prong of the dialogue, I'm reminded of the work that's been done by different folks to talk about different levels of faith, sort of like the Maslow's hierarchy of drives. You have like very simple and primitive ways of looking at the world through a faithful eyes, and then you become somehow much more integrated and intelligent and whatever, and your faith becomes more nuanced and flexible, etc. Did you come across anything like that?
No, I didn't, and you just took that in a whole different direction from what I was thinking. I thought that Lang and I, without knowing about your point, Lang and I were talking of kind of like different levels of faith, but you're talking about something entirely different, though.
Well, not really. It's got to do with development.
Yeah, I came across something on that.
In the same way that intelligence can be stunted by various issues, problems, lack of resources, etc., faith development can be arrested at these different stages, and so people get stuck in a certain way of doing things in a rut, and they don't see a way. They don't have whatever it takes to get out of that rut, and so they think a certain way.
Okay. Would you be willing to stay on the line for a moment? Lang said he did find something that addresses that, and I'd like to get your input some more, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a reference to James Fowler, who proposed stages of faith development, and he has
That's the one.
6 stages.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lang, can you elaborate on that, and we'll open the lines up?
I can run through them quickly. The first is intuitive projective, which he equates with the preschool period, and then the mythic literal, which is the school-going period, the synthetic conventional, which is early to late adolescence, and the individuative reflective, which comes in early adulthood, conjunctive faith in midlife, and universalizing faith in older adulthood. And I can elaborate on what the summary says about those.
You haven't told me anything. But
the first stage is confusion and high impressionability through stories and ritual. That's the intuitive projective. So you have faith based on these stories and rituals that you are being taught. Mythic literal is where there's information provided and accepted in order to conform to social norms. So it's like fitting in with the community of faith that you belong to. And then third is synthetic conventional, and this is...
Synthetic conventional.
Yeah, a belief system where personification and replacement with authority in individuals or groups who represents one's beliefs. So it's not just through conforming with the group, but it's through personification in the authority of individuals in the group that is the basis of the faith.
Okay, so now it's boiling down to having faith in an individual as a leader to follow or whatever?
That's my understanding from the brief summary I have.
Mike, can you add anything to that?
Well, I think one thing to point out there is in some ways Fowler, that is the guy that I was thinking of. I know that I've heard ministers give sermons on this topic. I believe from my own experience that, yes, you can get arrested at a certain level, but I think the higher up you go in terms of your development with faith, you can still, you don't necessarily shut off those earlier levels of experience. So I can be a very integrated person with a very open-hearted faith, seeing things that are valid or true in different religions, for example, and still be touched by something in a particular religion that you grew up in that as a very young child it engaged you. So, for example, I'm a sucker for heaven and hell movies, or anytime I get to see the Song of Bernadette, I'll watch it because I grew up Catholic. Or if you read the story by Thomas Merton about the last priest on earth performing the last Mass, it feels poignant because it's harking back to earlier experience.
Okay. I'm not sure I can expound on that.
Well, I'm thinking of that. Who's that guy that wrote The Power of Myth?
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell. Yeah.
I think he engaged a lot of this stuff on many of these different levels. Is what I'm saying. Is that some things grabbed him from the the childlike things, the rituals and the beauty of things, and so on and so on and so on. So,
Okay.
It's an observation. I'll let you go.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Well,
Okay.
that makes sense to me too.
Okay, and I guess, yeah, we have certain elements of the earlier phases, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to summarize this. We have certain elements of the earlier aspects of faith incorporated into our psyche or our thinking today, but it's important not to stay stuck in any one of those, like faith in an individual or faith in the, blind faith in myth. We need to evolve, I guess, and refine our use of the phenomenon of faith. If that's
I think that's an accurate description of what occurs in lives of people. To say whether it's good to advance through this sequence of these stages of faith, that's a different kind of a proposition about what's good or not in
leaving
development
aside
of an
the
individual.
opinions of good and
but so far as early stages still being triggered in someone who's developed to one of the later stages in this sequence of development, that I think is in harmony with this understanding of a lot of things that happen to us psychologically, of being touched by things that were part of our earlier
experiences
or even to earlier parts of the evolution of the species.
Mm-hmm.
Like triggering rage at a feeling of threat to survival that's been present in animal life through eons in various species through the evolutionary sequence. And so analogous to that.
Right. We've got only a few minutes left, Lang, and I did want to touch on one other aspect of faith, the one that often animates me. And by the way, we're talking about faith here on A Pause for Thought. If you'd like to call in or during the next few minutes anyway, 343-9927 is the number to call, 343-9927. And Lang, where I have a problem with the idea with many people whose entire set of religious beliefs or their entire religion is based on faith that there is a God. And by God, I mean a conscious being that, punishes us and makes the way clear for us if we behave the right way and things like that. And what bothers me with that is that, in my opinion, if people are willing to base their entire life philosophy on something that is entirely faith-based, that's dangerous. It's blind faith, I guess, is what I'm talking about. And if people are willing to engage in something on blind faith, something as important to me as my personal religion, then they may be able to be misled in other aspects of life by charlatans or evil people. And I guess, and actually I looked at this years ago in responding to an article or a column by the atheist Stephen Prothero. And he pointed out that Americans are easily swayed by demagogues on the left or the right, simply because it's what they say, it's what the Bible says, or whatever. And he talks about that being biblical literacy or illiteracy. And I think it's their blind faith that allows people to be misled. And in fact, Jesus, I found a quote here in the Gnostic Gospels. This was the apocalypse of Peter, where Peter, referring to the masses assembled before them, tells Jesus, quote, "As you sit, they are praising you." And Jesus replies, quote, "I have told you that these people are blind and deaf." And goes on to state that they will cleave to the name of a dead man, thinking that they will become pure, but they will become greatly defiled, and they will fall into a name of error, and into the hand of an evil, cunning man and a manifold dogma, and they will be ruled heretically. And close quote. And for me, that's a dangerous thing. The people in Nazi Germany put their faith in Hitler, blind faith, and they went their direction, and we see what happened with there. And It just seems like a dangerous thing. I think people should question basic tenets of their belief systems. Otherwise, it really is to me a house of cards. I mean, we have a few seconds left, but I mean, you see my point on that. It's not necessarily a criticism of religion. It's just I'd be scared or hesitant.
Well, yeah, I think that criticism could be applied to any. Well, you compared it to Nazi Germany, to any appeal to some great person who has all the answers and can tell us all what to do.
Right, okay. Well, I wanted to get that point out, Lang, and I'm sorry to have taken up the last 3 minutes talking about me, but anyhow, we thank you for listening. You've been listening to Wayne Parker and Lang Baker here on A Pause for Thought on Baton Rouge Community Radio, 96.9 FM here in Baton Rouge. We're out of time. We got to go. You have a good night.